Part 24. Adorable Baby, The Miracle Doctor is So Awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 231. Lin Chen stepped forward and presented the storage bag with both hands. Miss Shen, I have distributed all the items inside. Everyone likes it very much and is very grateful, so I also prepared some gadgets. I hope Miss Shen won't dislike it. If there is anything Miss Shen wants, just ask. While speaking, he paid attention to the expression on his prince's face. Seeing that he looked satisfied, he felt relieved. It seemed that what he said was right. From now on, he will not regard himself as the prince's person. According to the prince's regard for Miss Shen, it must be that their subordinates can directly please Miss Shen, which will satisfy the prince even more. Lin Chen is truly worthy of being the general manager of Prince Chen's mansion. His grasp of the wind direction is precise. Having determined the course of action for the future, he had made a lot of decisions in his mind. Shen Yizi reached into the storage bag with his spiritual sense, and found that it was almost full, and it was clearly arranged according to categories. It was said that it was a small gadget, but it actually showed the intention. Antiques and curios, medicinal materials and jewelry, eating toys, books and paintings, all kinds of items. Shen Yizi smiled and said, I have accepted everyone's kindness. Manager Lin will say thank you to everyone on my behalf. But there is no need to spend so much money next time. If you really feel sorry for it, help me collect some seeds of herbs, medicinal crops, etc., or seedlings. Lin Chen responded and returned to his position. Xiao Yu and others stepped forward one after another and solemnly introduced themselves. Shen Yizi was a little helpless. Why did the scene look like she had just married into the palace and was familiar with the palace's personnel? Moreover, although these people called her Miss Shen, their attitude seemed to treat her as the mistress of the palace. Shen Yizi could not deny that she was happy to be valued so much by Gu Swiding, but wasn't she not married to him yet? After all, the name is unfair. She pinched Gu Swiding's hand under the desk, but he held it and played with it. When it was Feng Hixing's turn, Gu Swiding said a few more words. Mr. Feng is the person my mother left for me. You can call him Uncle Feng. After hearing this, Feng Hixing looked at Shen Yizi expectantly. Shen Yizi gave Gu Swiding an angry look, stood up quickly and called Uncle Feng. Yaoshao, Mr. Feng is the elder, how can she deserve his courtesy? Gu Swiding is also true. Feng Hixing was very happy and said hello repeatedly, as if he had found a treasure, so that Lin Chen and others didn't even notice. Normally, this ancestor is very cold and aloof, but now his character is completely ruined. I don't have much good stuff, so you can play with this pearl. Feng Hixing handed over a small box as big as a palm. He sent it off easily, but Qi Ming below was no longer calm. Mr. Feng, it is said that if you have the water beads in your hand, you can enter the rivers, lakes, and seas as if you were walking on flat ground, but is it true? Feng Hixing nodded, not bad. Shen Yizi suddenly received a bunch of envious eyes. Gu Swiding said, open it and take a look. Shen Yizi opened the box. Inside was a black bead the size of a lychee, like black iron, with scale-like patterns on it, and the gaps between the scales were small holes. It was not quite what she had imagined. She held it in her hand, and it was quite heavy. She showed a fond look. Thank you, Uncle Feng. Well, as long as you like it. After meeting the people, Lin Chen and others dispersed. When he left, his steps were a little hurried, as if he was rushing to do something. Shen Yizi couldn't help but look at Gu Swiding. He shaved her face and said, don't think too much. Didn't you give them a big gift yesterday? They can't wait to try it. Among those medicines, there are barrier-breaking liquids specially used to break through promotions, body-tempering pills to cleanse marrow and cut tendons, and hemostatic creams to stop bleeding and promote muscle growth, because they are all made of elixirs, whether they are warriors or monks, can be used. Lin Chen and others wanted to give it a try as early as last night, but they thought that the prince would definitely arrange for them to formally meet the princess, so they held back. Now that they had met her, how could they hold back? When we came out of the temple, it was almost noon. Shen Yizi asked Gu Swiding to lead the way to the small kitchen in Hangang Hall, intending to cook a delicious meal for Gu Swiding. The cooks inside were surprised and happy when they saw her. What surprised me was that I didn't expect that this person would follow the prince here. Happily, they finally had the opportunity to thank Miss Shen in person. Although they were cooks, they were fortunate enough to receive a few spiritual fruits and a box of spiritual medicine. That spirit is really not a mortal thing. Cook A's grandson was coughing recently and was not getting better after taking medicine. She happened to get 2 juicy big pears, so she stewed one of them with rock sugar and gave it to her grandson. As a result, after my grandson drank it, he felt better when he got up in the morning. Cook B took the spirit fruit back and shared it with her family. Although she had diarrhea after eating it, her body felt more relaxed, as if all the turbid matter accumulated in the body over the years had been excreted. So she slept well last night, staying up all night until dawn. I feel more energetic when I wake up in the morning. Others are in a similar situation. Several cooks gathered together and talked about all the miraculous things that had happened to them, and they became more and more in awe of Shen Yizi. Fortunately, Lin Chen had already issued a hush-hush order, prohibiting them from revealing Miss Shen's affairs to the outside world. As for the source of these spiritual fruits and elixirs, they were all blamed on the palace. So the cook and the servants only discussed the gossip privately in the palace, but never mentioned it outside. Those who are able to work in Prince Chen's mansion have been screened at all levels. Those who are restless have no chance to even step into the gate of Prince Chen's mansion, let alone stay. Those who remain have gone through many tests. In addition, there are few troubles in Prince Chen's mansion and the treatment is generous. The servants cherish their jobs and do not dare to make mistakes easily. The current Prince Chen's mansion is basically an iron bucket, and water cannot be poured into it. Gu Swiding said, "You all go down, I'll give you half a day off." Several cooks were so happy that they left happily. Although they don't know why the prince suddenly gave them a holiday, after working in the palace for so long, they have understood the truth, that is, ask less and do more, just do what the master tells them. After the cook left, Shen Yizi looked around and saw that it was a small kitchen, but it was not small at all. There were 6 large and small stoves lined up in the middle. To the east is a row of cupboards and pottery jars containing rice, noodles, oil, sauce, etc. To the west is a row of half-person high counters filled with all kinds of fresh ingredients, neatly organized. 2 tall and large windows were opened on the opposite wall. The skylight came in, making the entire kitchen look bright and spacious. Shen Yizi clapped his hands and asked Gu Swiding, "What do you want to eat? At the same time, take out some ingredients that you may use later." Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 232. Gu Swiding hugged her, spicy crayfish. Last time, she sent a video of Qingbao and Yuanbao eating lobster. She was greedy for him all night, and asked the cook to try it the next day. It turned out that the cook had never heard of the name of the dish at all. Don't even know what a crayfish is. Shen Yizi said dotingly, "Okay, I'll cook it for you." I brought out a basin of fresh crayfish. Each one was as big as an adult man's palm. Their shells were bright red and their claws were very fat. "But you have to be responsible for cleaning the lobster." She turned around with a smile and touched her boyfriend's handsome face. Gu Swiding took the opportunity to rub it into her hand. He would have taken over the work even if she didn't say anything. Zhizi would be responsible for doing it, and he would be responsible for cleaning. Working together gave him a sense of happiness that they were married and living together. "What else do you want to eat?" Shenyazi picked up a lobster and taught him how to clean it. Chrysanthemum meat, steamed catfish, and braised pork ribs. Goose Whitting reported the three dishes he wanted to eat the most. Chrysanthemum pork is a chrysanthemum dish that is made by boiling sucrose into syrup, then adding pieces of white tender pork about thick and fat and thin, and simmering it over low heat, a bit like braised pork. But the sauce uses syrup. After it is made, the pieces of meat that have been soaked with fat and syrup are exquisite and translucent, and the color is golden, like amber. After putting it on a plate, a few chrysanthemum petals are stuck on the meat. It is really beautiful and attractive. It is soft and tender in the mouth, sweet but not greasy. It is especially suitable for children and the elderly, and is also good news for sweet meat eaters. Shenyazi remembered that she had done it once, and he actually remembered it. More than just writing it down, Goose Whitting has watched every dish she cooked countless times, especially when eating. Watching the eating videos she sent would make him eat a lot without even realizing it. The catfish at this time has tight and delicate meat, with a hint of fragrance, and tastes best when steamed. Moreover, catfish has very few spines all over its body, almost only one main spine, and both sides are thick fish meat, so you can eat as much as you want at one time. Shenyazi took out the ingredients needed for cooking one by one and processed them. She had almost done it. When she looked at Goose Whitting's side, only half of the shrimps were done. He was standing in front of the counter, holding a lobster in one hand and washing it with a small brush in the other, with a focused look on his face, as if he was doing something important. Shenyazi walked over, hugged his waist from behind, put his head on his elbow, and said with a smile, "If you act like this, we won't be able to eat until the afternoon. Come and see what I have to eat." She rolled up her sleeves and quickly caught a lobster. She first picked up the scissors and cut off the rays and front head with a click. Then she picked up the tail tendons and used a cleaning technique to finish a lobster. Less than 10 seconds before and after. She raised her eyebrows at Goose Whitting, with pride in her eyes, as if to say, "Learn more." Goose Whitting was tickled by her cute little expression. He leaned over to steal some incense, then quickly straightened up. "Yes, I will definitely speed up so that I can complete the task assigned by the princess as soon as possible." Speaking in a serious manner. Shenyazi chuckled. A basin of lobster was finally put away before noon. It's quick to make. Just add the ingredients directly into the constant burning cauldron, select the cooking method, heat, and time, and it'll be ready in just a few minutes. In addition to the dishes Goose Whitting mentioned, Shenyazi made 2 more light-side dishes. There were 6 dishes on the table, and a large bowl of lobster was placed in the middle. This dish alone took up half of the area. When eating lobsters, Shenyazi originally planned to give Goose Whitting a demonstration, but unexpectedly he picked one up and started eating it skillfully. Shenyazi chuckled and teased him, "Did you not stop watching the lobster eating video I sent you?" Goose Whitting smiled and said nothing. There is no need to be reserved when eating lobster, but some people just like God to appreciate it. Shenyazi had to admit that even if Goose Whitting gnawed the lobster, it was very pleasing to the eye. A thin layer of sweat broke out on his white jade-like forehead, and his lips were red and moist due to the heat. The original ascetic aura was completely gone at this time, but he looked even more beautiful. It makes people want to eat it in one bite. Shenyazi peeled off a whole shrimp and fed it to his mouth. "Is it tasty?" While Goose Whitting bit the shrimp, she also licked the soup on her fingers, not wasting a drop, and then said, "It's delicious." The black eyes like lacquer seemed to be stained with a layer of moisture, looking straight at her. Shenyazi. How could she be timid at this time? He smiled sweetly, "If it tastes good, eat more. There is a big pot here." One meal, the two of them had pink bubbles popping out. "But I'm really full." After the meal, after rinsing his mouth to get rid of the smell of lobster, Shenyazi took out some homemade mint-flavored candy tablets. "Ah, Open your mouth and bite only half of it. Goose Whitting obediently bit down on half of it, and Shenyazi leaned over and bit down on the other half. As the saying goes, what's the point of being full and warm? How could Goose Whitting let go of such a good opportunity? He took the opportunity to pull him into his arms and gave her a mint-flavored kiss. When it was over, the two of them lay hugging each other and looked out the window. The sky is blue and the sunlight is just right. The thick leaves cut the sunlight into fine pieces of gold. A gust of wind passes by and the leaves rustle. What a wonderful afternoon for a nap. Shenyazi took Goose Whitting's hand and rubbed his belly, then closed his eyes. Before she fell asleep, her consciousness wandered around the space, and she found that even if she was not there, Qingbao and Nian Nian had clearly arranged themselves. They were so happy that they couldn't miss Shu, so they felt relieved. Goose Whitting didn't have the habit of taking a nap, but perhaps she was infected and couldn't help but close her eyes. He rested his head on her neck and wrapped his arms around her waist. It was a dominating yet dependent posture. About half an hour later, Shenyazi woke up naturally. Goose Whitting was still asleep, his shallow breath spraying on her neck. The air is filled with the smell of peace. She touched Goose Whitting's head in her arms, pinched his earlobe and played with it carelessly. How could he not notice that she was like this? Nature also woke up. He opened his eyes slightly and rubbed himself comfortably in her arms. This nap was a really good one. His childish actions made Shenyazi feel very motherly, and she tilted her head and kissed him on the cheek. This kiss was incredible. The man who was originally lazy and childish suddenly became dangerous and caught her and kissed her deeply. Finally, he licked his lips contentedly and pushed her messy hair behind her ears. Would you like to walk around? Good. The two of them held hands and wandered around the palace sweetly. After walking around, Shenyazi only had one feeling: it was big. What she saw yesterday was only a small part of the palace. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 233. The garden also encompasses an entire lake. There is a forest beside the lake that is definitely over 100 years old. The forest is full of lush vegetation and the silence is deep. The moment you step into the forest, you feel like you are isolated from the rest of the world. In this imperial capital where every inch of land is at a premium, having such a garden is no longer enough to be described as luxurious. It is simply unbelievable. Shenyazi looked at Goose Whitting. This man was almost lying in a mine when he was born. He led her all the way inside, as if he wanted to take her somewhere. She didn't ask any questions and just followed him. Finally, he stopped in front of a small building named Qingsheng. Qingsheng Tower is located on a gentle slope, surrounded by a wide open area with thick and soft grass. A clear stream meanders down the slope, and fish jump out of the water from time to time. The sound of the water is gurgling and the birds are chirping quietly. This is exactly what she imagined the fairy tale house to look like. Shenyazi let go of Goose Whitting's hand, took off his shoes, and ran briskly into the stream, playing like a child. Under the sunshine, her smile was as clear and crystal clear as a stream. Goose Whitting was once again very clear that this was the woman he would spend his life with in the future. Shenyazi stepped on the water and saw Goose Whitting still standing there, so he poured water on him. Why are you standing there stupidly? Take out the photo stone and take a picture of my beautiful self. Goose Whitting woke up from a dream and hurriedly did as she asked. Come here. Shenyazi hooked his hand. Goose Whitting caught the flash of the evil smile in her eyes, but still walked over as if he didn't know anything. Ah, her feet suddenly slipped, and Goose Whitting dodged over and hugged her, preventing her from falling into the water. In the end, she pushed him into the water with her backhand, and ran to the side with her hands on her hips and laughed, like a child who had succeeded in a prank. The water in the creek was not deep at all. Even when he was sitting, it was only up to his waist. Goose Whitting wiped his face, stood up from the water, and strode towards her. Shenyazi screamed and ran away with a smile, but he was caught in the end. He trapped her between his chest and the creek rocks, biting her lip like a punishment. "Naughty, this is in my hands, let's see what you do." Shenyazi's fingers climbed up to his face and stroked away the water droplets on his face that were as bright as diamonds. "Can you let the prince handle it?" She smiled like a little fairy who had just come into the world, pure and charming, dazzling a pool of spring water. Goose Whitting's breath suddenly dropped and he stared at her for a long time, but finally closed his eyes in frustration. What can he do with her now? A kiss cannot satisfy the longing in his heart, and in the end, he will only be the one who feels uncomfortable. That time 4 years ago must have brought a bad memory to her, so he did not plan to touch her before getting married. In this way, the only way is to clear away all the obstacles between the two of them as soon as possible, then we can welcome her into the palace openly and let her become the legitimate mistress of this palace. For that moment, all the patience and waiting now are worth it. Shenyazi was a little scared at first. After all, he had already said harsh words, and just now he was staring at her like a wolf, as if he wanted to swallow her whole. As a result, he did not take any action after being in trouble for a long time. Shenyazi approached him mischievously and blew into his ear, "Do you really not want to do anything to me? I am already prepared. It is simply a drama." Goose Whitting opened his eyes. Under the calm surface, there was hot magma surging. If he indulged for a moment, he and she would be submerged together. Shenyazi was shocked and shrank back. He was really scared now. In the final analysis, the reason why she dared to act arrogantly in front of him was just because he would not do anything to her. If she really made him become more animalistic, she would be really scared. Seeing that she looked away and did not dare to look at him, Goose Whitting knew that she was a little scared. He was funny and helpless at the same time. He leaned over and kissed her eyes, picked her up like a child, and walked towards the small building. "Change your clothes and take a shower to avoid catching a cold." He carried her to the bedroom. There was a hot spring pool in the bathroom connected to the bedroom, which came from unknown sources. The bathroom is semi-open, with a circle of jacaranda trees planted outside. When it is static, it looks like a painting, and when it is blown by the wind, it is even more beautiful and ethereal. Shenyazi was reluctant to get out while soaking in the pool. "Zhizzy," Goose Whitting called her worriedly outside, fearing that she would faint after soaking for too long. Shenyazi walked out with wet hair and wooden clogs, bringing with him a warm fragrance. Water tanks were placed under the floor, forming hollows. When you step on them with wooden clogs, waves of echoes will be aroused. The sound is indescribably pleasant, like the sound of wind chimes under the eaves, like the sound of clear snow falling. On the petals, it is like the breeze blowing over the green mountains. Shenyazi felt that every step he took was a happy note. In order to hear the sound, she took a few extra steps. Goose Whitting was amused by her childish behavior and led her to the window. The entire wall here has been punched through, making it look like a floor-to-ceiling window. In front of the window is a tatami as wide as a bed, with a low table and 2 futons placed on it. Knowing that Shenyazi liked to lie down, Goose Whitting spread a fleece blanket on top of her while she was taking a bath. Enough for her to roll on. Such an arrangement really touched Shenyazi's heart. "That's so thoughtful. I'm giving you a candy as a reward. What kind of candy do you want?" Goose Whitting blurted out, "Those who know the taste." Shenyazi. "Oh my God, is there such a sweet critical hit?" Shenyazi rarely felt uncomfortable in front of him. "Look left and right, but don't look at him." Goose Whitting was a little at a loss after speaking. The air suddenly became silent, but there was a faint sweetness surging through it. Shenyazi coughed lightly, It's not like I can't satisfy you. She put the candy into her mouth, held his shoulders, stood on tiptoes, and fed it to him. His sugar, is it sweet? How can it not be sweet? Goosewitting felt like he was going to be overwhelmed by the sweetness in his chest. Although he couldn't taste the candy in his mouth at all. I'll dry your hair. Good. Though for them, drying their hair is just a matter of a small spell. After wiping her hair, Goosewitting combed it unskillfully for her, and finally tied it up simply with a silk rope. Shenyazi stayed spread out the whole time, not even using a finger. She felt that if she continued like this, she would be taken care of by Goosewitting. Although she also enjoys it very much. She turned around, lay on his back, put her arms around his chest, and played with a lock of his hair. Why is a small building built here? She just asked casually, but she didn't expect that there was actually something inside. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 234. I built a tomb for my mother nearby. I occasionally come here to see her, and sometimes I just rest here. Shenyazi was caught off guard. So, you brought me to see your mother? Well, if mother were still alive, she would definitely like you very much. Goosewitting tilted his head and met her cheek to cheek. But I didn't prepare anything. These words made Goosewitting chuckle. As long as you show up, the rest is not important. Shenyazi was led by Goosewitting and came to a behind the small building with a little anxiety. A raised earth mound, covered with green grass and flowers, with a stone tablet standing in front of it, with two simple words written on it. In the tomb of Emperor Mingzhu, his son Goosewitting stands. Emperor Pearl. Shenyazi felt that the name of this mother-in-law was so domineering. No, why did she call her mother-in-law? Goosewitting misled her. Goosewitting sat down in front of the tombstone, with a casual attitude, and said in a conversational tone, Mom, I brought Hizi to see you. He stretched out his hand towards Shenyazi, and when she came over, he pulled her into his arms with a little force, and made her sit in front of him. His arms were imaginary around her, so that she was completely surrounded by him. Say hello to Mom, he whispered in her ear with a hint of coaxing. Shenyazi blurted out, Mother. As soon as the words came out of her mouth, she wanted to bite off her tongue. She kept calling her mother. It was all Goosewitting's fault for deliberately misleading her. This scheming boy. Goosewitting laughed sullenly, like a feather, tickling her ears. Before she even noticed it, the ear shells had turned red, and the fine hairs on them seemed to be stained with embarrassment. It was so cute that he wanted to bite it. But thinking that this was in front of my mother's tomb, I finally resisted. When she couldn't help pinching him, his laughter finally stopped, but his voice was still full of laughter. Mom likes you very much. Shenyazi looked at him. Where did you see it? Don't say that this is just a tomb in front of you. Even if his mother is really lying in it, you can't convey such a meaning to him, okay? Goosewitting said, I know. His knowledge is so good, how could his mother not like it? If he knew his logic was like this, Shenyazi would definitely laugh. After being teased by him, Shenyazi's nervousness eased a lot, although she didn't know why she was nervous. Goosewitting continued to chat with his mother about home affairs, just like a son who returns from an outing and reports his experiences to his mother one by one. Shenyazi was involved in the words from time to time, and gradually, she joined in. Mother likes Qingbao very much. Shenyazi then deliberately talked more about Qingbao. The little flowers on the grave sway gently in the wind, as if they were really listening to something. At the back, the two people's voices gradually fell away, and the atmosphere became quiet. A large piece of sunset appeared on the horizon, warm and brilliant, rolling up to the horizon in layers. Shenyazi put all his weight on Goosewitting behind him, leaned against him, and watched quietly. Night fell unknowingly, and the dark blue sky was as smooth as velvet, without a trace of wrinkles. It is dotted with diamond-like stars. The wind has picked up, go back, Goose Whitting said. Okay, Shenyazi stood up first, and this time it was her turn to pull him. After getting up, he did not let go of her hand and kept holding it. The two of them walked slowly back to the small building. Shenyazi couldn't help but ask, "What kind of person is your mother?" Goose Whitting did not answer, but took her to the second floor of the small building. This place is very empty, with almost no objects, only paintings hanging on the walls. The paintings are all about the same woman. Shenyazi guessed the woman's identity without asking, Goose Whitting's mother. Just like her name, Diminjio, this is a woman as bright as the moon. She looked at them one by one. Goose Whitting followed her behind her hands. My mother is a very childish person. She often snatched my toys to play with when she was a child. Shenyazi never expected that he would hear such an opening. Well, Goose Whitting successfully aroused her infinite curiosity. When I was 5 years old, she suffered from a kind of amnesia. When she woke up in the morning, she suddenly couldn't remember what happened before. It wasn't very serious at first, she just forgot about the past few days. Later, she even couldn't remember what happened in the past few days. Everyone has forgotten. But she only remembers me. Once she got a cricket from somewhere and said she wanted to give it to Ting-er to play with, but she walked directly in front of me and kept calling Ting-er. At that time, all she remembered was 2 or 3 me when I was young. Goose Whitting stood in front of a portrait with his back to Shenyazi. She couldn't see his expression, and his voice sounded dull. However, the aura of silence lingering around him cannot deceive anyone. Shenyazi hugged him from behind. At this time, she didn't know how to comfort him. She could only tell him silently, "You still have me." Goose Whitting put his hand on hers, and her skin felt a heart-warming warmth. One day, all the pear blossoms in the garden were in bloom. She recovered from her illness without any warning. She took me to the garden. She climbed up the tree and shook the branches vigorously, shaking all the pear blossoms off the branches. Just looking at her under the tree, she was showered with pear petals. When she came down, she saw it and burst into laughter. Before going to bed at night, she made an agreement with me to go to the zoo tomorrow and catch the red-crowned crane and ride it. She said she used to have a white crane mount and often rode it around. The next morning, she didn't get up. My father said to me, "Your mother was afraid that I would punish her, so she refused to get up." But from that day on, my mother never woke up again. When I grow a year or 2 older, I will know that my mother has actually passed away and will never take me around the garden again, nor will she fulfill the promises she made. Shenyazi felt extremely distressed when he heard this, and turned to him, "I will accompany you to catch a crane as a mount from now on. Our family of 3 will ride on the crane to travel around the mountains and rivers, and enjoy the world at ease, okay?" Goose Whitting held her hand covering his face and said, "Okay." He led her to the window, sat directly on the floor, leaned against the railing, let her lie on his lap, gently stroked her silky hair, and continued to talk. When I was 8 years old, the poison in my body broke out for the first time. It was the first time I lost control and my heart was completely filled with a violent emotion. When I woke up, I realized that I had killed someone, and Gong people looked at me with fear, and they stayed away from me ever since. Shenyazi sat up suddenly. Devil poison, what's going on? He was actually poisoned. Why didn't she notice it? She had checked his pulse before. She grabbed his wrist and checked his pulse again, but still found nothing. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 235. Goose Whitting smiled and said, "I didn't know I was poisoned before, until that time when the poison occurred. All the doctors in the Imperial Hospital were at a loss what to do, but it was the Imperial Master who told me that this was a poison that originated from the upper world. For the devil's poison. It's said to be poison, but it's actually more like a curse. When emotions get out of control, the poison will take the opportunity to cause trouble. When the poison takes effect, just like being possessed by a demon, the whole person will turn into a demon with no emotions and only knows and destroy. Head. Shenyazi was frightened and looked at him with worry. Is there no way to solve it? Guswitting pressed her into his arms. The Imperial Master said that it is estimated that the poison can only be removed by finding the person who poisoned it. Don't worry, the demonic poison does not hinder me on weekdays. Now that I have learned to control my emotions, the demonic poison has become very effective. Less seizures. That's strange. The poison does not occur when the mood is out of control, but will occur once the mood swings occur. It's just that the more intense the emotion, the more intense the attack will be. Originally, he could still keep his mood indifferent at all times, but the poison did not find him for a long time. But after meeting her, all the peace of mind was gone forever. Now, it can be said that he is suffering from the pain of demonic poison attacks all the time. But fortunately, he has been fighting against the poison for so many years. As long as his emotions are not completely out of control, he can control them without being noticed by others. Just like Shenyazi, there is no clue that he is enduring unimaginable pain. It can only be said that his endurance is really superb and he acted completely as if nothing had happened. Shenyazi was not comforted by him. She was always suspicious of his words. It was not that she didn't trust him, but that she knew his feelings for her too well. In order not to worry her, he would definitely downplay the situation. The reality might be much more serious than what he said. She communicated with Yu Chain mentally. What's going on with the magic poison? Magic poison? Yu Chain's surprised and fearful tone made Shenyazi's heart suddenly sink. Sure enough, she knew that the magic poison was not that simple. How do you know about the magic poison? Tell me first what the devil poison is all about. After listening to Yi Chang's story, Shenyazi's hands and feet felt cold, and he scolded Guswitting in his heart. This is simply risking his life to be with her. Had he known, she would not have provoked him. Of course, this is impossible. They had been entangled with each other 4 years ago, and they were destined to be together. But when he thought that Guswitting, who had a calm face, was actually enduring pain all the time, especially when he was with her, his emotions would be many times stronger and the pain would be intensified. And she had always teased him deliberately before, hoping to see him deflate. Look. Thinking about it now, Shenyazi wished he could give himself a good beating at that time. Can the magic poison be cured? She asked hopefully. It can be solved. There are 2 ways. Either find the person who poisoned the original and solve it at the source. Just like dispelling a spell, you need to eliminate the source of the person who cast the spell. However, this method is probably very difficult to operate. Because I guess that the person who poisoned is probably not in this world. From your description, the devilish poison in Guswitting's body was probably brought from his mother's womb. In other words, it was actually his mother who was poisoned, but she later became pregnant and passed the poison on to him. Will this poison be passed from the mother to the fetus? Shenyazi suddenly thought. Will it be passed from the father to the next generation? If this is the case, wouldn't Qingbao? Yu Chain was not sure either. Maybe not. Shenyazi suppressed this hidden worry and asked, is there another way? This poison is rooted in the soul. If you want to detoxify it, you can clean the soul from the inside out. In this way, the poison will naturally be gone. This method doesn't sound very friendly. Can the soul be moved easily? What will happen to the soul after it is cleaned from the inside out? Well, doesn't your original world have a word called formatting? I think it's quite vivid. After the soul is cleansed, it's probably equivalent to formatting. All the emotions and memories in the past will naturally no longer exist. According to the local, it's like drinking Meng Po Tang and being reincarnated. Shenyazi. In other words, using this method, the poison was cured, but Gu Swiding would also forget everything in the past, forget her, forget Qingbao, just thinking about it made her want to die. However, if he doesn't understand it, Gu Swiding's condition will become more serious every time the demonic poison attacks. Later, he may really become a demon completely. Compared to being forgotten by him, this situation was more unacceptable to her. Don't be so pessimistic. In fact, it might be a good thing to think about it from another perspective. Think about it, after his soul is washed, his whole person becomes like a newborn baby. Isn't he going to be left to you? He also learned the word pan from Shenyazi's memory. You can train him however you want. How can you make him fall in love with you again? Isn't it just a matter of minutes? Although he has lost all his past memories, he is still the same person. He has the foundation of his previous feelings. This it shouldn't be difficult. After hearing these words, Shenyazi's mood became a little brighter. Tell me, how to operate this method. You need a 7th level soul cleansing pill. Either you become a 7th level alchemist yourself, or you find a 7th level alchemist to help you refine it. But no matter which one it is, you have to collect various the heavenly materials and earthly treasures needed to refine the soul cleansing pill. Yu Chain then reported a long list of names. Shuanglinji, Liu Hikui, Wanjin Vine, Tianji Fruit, Emperor Xiu, Shenyazi had never heard of it. And given that the level of this interface is too low, it is basically impossible to have two high-level elixirs, so you must first be able to break through the limitations of this world and go to a higher level world. Just this alone, it is possible to exhaust. You can't do it in your lifetime. As the biological mother of the beloved Son of Heaven, I have more confidence in you. Shenyazi, I was not comforted. But she will definitely help him get rid of Gu Swiding's evil poison. But before that, she should try to reduce her contact with him as much as possible to prevent him from being restless all the time. Shenyazi immediately withdrew from his arms and sat down at arm's length from him. Gu Swiding, from now on, we have to keep our distance. We can hold hands, but we can't hug or kiss. Promise me. It was obviously impossible for Gu Swiding to agree. Even if he died of pain, he would hold her in his arms and indulge in her sweetness. Zhizi, come here. He stared at her with serious eyes. His temperament was as pure as fine wine, seducing her silently. If it had been in the past, Shenyazi would have pounced on him long ago, and maybe he would have taken the opportunity to tease him. But now, it is impossible to tease him, and he has to bear the pain to reject him. She shook her head. Be good, let's just sit like this and talk. Her behavior showed that she already knew the characteristics of the poison. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 236. Gu Swiding stared at her for a while, then suddenly covered his chest and groaned palely, as if he was in uncontrollable pain. How can Shenyazi still care about keeping a distance? What's wrong? Where does it hurt? Gu Swiding took the opportunity to catch her and trap her in his arms, fearing that she would slip away again. This time he held her so tightly that it was difficult for her to breathe. By this time, she also knew that he was pretending, or maybe he wasn't, and he was just showing a scene that had never been shown to anyone before. So instead of being angry, she felt even more distressed. Gu Swiding, she said in a low voice without struggling, if you would rather endure the pain of being close to me, then I won't think I'm treating you well and stay away from you. However, if you really feel uncomfortable, you must tell me. Okay. You are not alone now, you have me and Qingbao. Zhizi, he called her softly. Huh, she raised her face, and the next moment, he kissed her. She froze for a moment, sensing his uneasiness, she softened, and kissed him back with infinite tenderness and compassion. After the kiss, she watched his expression carefully. Goosewitting held her face with one hand and rubbed it carefully. Knowing what she was worried about, he comforted her, "It doesn't hurt at all. When I'm with you, I just hope that time can slow down a little bit, and a little bit slower, preferably forever stay in this moment." Normally, Shen Yizi should be moved by such words, but she heard a hint of madness in his words. "You can have this kind of kiss a few more times, come on Zizi, and ravage me to your heart's content. If it gets dirty by accident, stop it immediately." She inserted her fingers into his hair and massaged him with moderate strength. "Are you comfortable?" He relaxed and closed his eyes. "What happened next? How did you meet your master?" Shen Yizi wanted to know more about his past. "In such a gentle night, in such an intimate atmosphere, isn't it just right for a young couple to have a heart-to-heart relationship? When I was 9 years old, foreign countries brought a Kirin dog as tribute. It is said that it had a trace of Kirin blood. It was very cute, with golden fur, 2 eyes like purple stars, and it roared very powerfully. At that time, there were many, everyone wanted it, but my father gave it to me. I liked it very much, named it Zixiao, and carried it with me wherever I went. One morning I woke up and found that it was skinned and bloody, lying at the door of my room." Shen Yizi's movements of massaging him suddenly became heavy. Goosewitting lowered his head and rubbed her forehead. "That was my second attack of magic poison." Then he gave a detailed account of how he met his master. "After practicing the Hunyuan Zhenjing taught to me by master, my control over the demonic poison has been greatly strengthened. However, the 2 attacks were extremely destructive. When some people publicized it, rumors spread in Beijing, and the demonic poison was the title of star reincarnation and murderous demon was placed on my head. Not long after, my father passed away to your majesty and disappeared. Some said that he had escaped into Buddhism, and some said that he had gone to pursue the path of immortality. However, these were just speculations made by outsiders. In fact, he had gone to the clouds. I stopped in the mountain to guard my mother's grave. I invited myself to go to the Northern Territory. I know what is beyond the Northern Territory." Goosewitting didn't want her to be tired anymore, so he took off her hand and wiped it carefully for her. "It is said that there is a wasteland with snow all year round, 3 feet of ice, and water dripping into ice. Only cold-resistant monsters and snowmen can survive there. The outside world calls it the Raging Snow Sea." "That's right. Although it is land, it is called the sea for a reason. Every year when the beast tide comes, thousands of monsters attack, such as the waves crashing on the shore, avalanches, and earthquakes. And the situation inside is also extremely extreme. It's complex and as dangerous as the real sea. If you're not careful, you may lose your way and never get out. Fortunately, there is a mountain pass standing at the border to keep out the monsters and snowmen in the Raging Snow Sea." Shen Yi knew, "I know Shen Haiguan. It is said that it was built under the order of Emperor Tianyuan more than 1,000 years ago and took advantage of the favorable geographical location and natural dangers. It stretches for tens of thousands of miles. The highest point is as high as Tongtian Mountain, and the widest point can accommodate dozens of horses. Horses are jumping and running on it. Tongtian Mountain, as its name suggests, is as high as the sky. Of course, this is just an image, but it also shows its height. You can imagine how majestic Shen Haiguan is." Shen Yizi's eyes sparkled with yearning. Goosewitting told her about the various customs he saw after going to Shen Haiguan. Hearing this, Shen Yizi wanted to see it even more. "Let's go there if we have a chance." "Good." Goosewitting recounted his experience. "I stayed in Shen Haiguan for 8 years until one day, I received urgent news from my father. He didn't say what it was, but just urged me to come back quickly. After I came back, I went to Yunting Mountain immediately, but was told by my father that my mother's body had been stolen. What? Shen Yizi was shocked for a while. He had only heard of tomb robbers, but this was the first time he heard about corpse robbing. And it happened under the nose of the former emperor. This is a bit intriguing. Who did it? What was the purpose of stealing Gu Swiding's mother's body? Then your mother, has she got her back? No, I have been ordering people to investigate this matter in the past few years. Every time I am about to have a clue, I am blocked by a secret force. There was a cold glint in Gu Swiding's eyes, and it was obvious that the force had completely angered him. Once, I was only one step away from retrieving my mother's body, but in the end I failed. Then you got the demonic poison, and then you met me, right? Shen Yizi looked up at him. Gu Swiding suddenly did not dare to look at her, for fear of seeing disgust in her eyes. Shen Yizi said slowly, I have already remembered part of that incident 4 years ago. Gu Swiding's hand on his knee suddenly froze. Shen Yizi was a little funny. Why are you nervous? She was obviously the one who took the initiative in the beginning. Okay. Later, she gave in half-heartedly. She was certain that she had a certain fondness for Gu Swiding at that time. Of course, it was probably because of his face. Just go for it if you like her. Her attitude towards feelings and things has always been so simple and straightforward. Speaking of which, she took advantage. After all, he was a little delirious at the time. So, what's going on with him looking so entangled and self-loathing? After learning about her attitude, Gu Swiding fell into an unspeakable silence. In his mind, doing that kind of thing to a woman without any words from a matchmaker was just like an animal, so in his later memories, he nailed himself to the pillar of shame over and over again, feeling tormented in his heart. However, with Shen Yizi, it was an in-depth exchange of feelings, although the process may not have gone smoothly. Shen Yizi kissed him and turned his face towards him. Look at me. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 237. Gu Swiding looked over softly with a pair of black eyes, which made Shen Yizi's girlish heart flutter. I'm indeed very angry, but do you know what I'm angry about? What I'm angry about is that you didn't even remember my face after eating me dry. If it were someone else at that time, wouldn't you also want to follow her, huh? When he thought of this, Shen Yizi was so angry that he became a puffer fish. Gu Swiding categorically denied, no, if someone else had been there, he might have been killed by me instead of Dash. Speaking of it, he was also puzzled, why was her blood so attractive to him who was suffering from the poison? Why can't he help but put her? Of course, all this has no solution so far. Okay, I believe you for now. Shen Yizi did believe him. When he came over, his hands were full of blood, which showed that he had committed many crimes. However, when he came to her, he just threw her away. Fei, this can be considered to be merciful. I'm hungry, let's go eat, it's already so late. Shen Yizi glanced at the sky outside. The two held hands and walked down the stairs to the first floor. While eating, Shen Yizi suddenly remembered, oops, we forgot about Xiaoman. The two of them looked at each other and immediately stopped caring about eating and hurried back to Hangang Hall. In the hall, Xiaoman lay limply in the basket, so hungry that he could no longer lift his eyelids. Shen Yizi felt guilty for a while, and hurriedly fed it some diluted spiritual spring water, and then took out a small bowl of rice porridge that was stewed to a pulp. Xiaoman ate very deliciously. After eating, he rubbed it on her fingers and lay down again. Your Majesty, do you think the Imperial Master is here to visit? Lin Chen walked in and reported to Gu Swiding. Why did the Imperial Master come here at this time? Moreover, he actually had no friendship with the Imperial Master, and they had only met him 3 times. But now that he's here, it's not easy to chase them away. Gu Swiding stroked Shen Yizi's hair and said, I'll come as soon as I go. If you're sleepy, just go to sleep first without waiting for me. Shen Yizi waved his hand and said, go ahead, she said it as if she would wait for him to sleep with her. Gu Swiding came to the front hall. The imperial master put down the teacup, stood up and said, I hope the prince won't take offense to the trouble late at night. National Preceptor Chu Yunggong, who seems to be doing well among the group of people who were exiled to the lower world, boarded the royal ship, enjoyed the worship of the lord of the country, and was tainted with the dragon spirit, so he began to practice fairly smooth. However, no matter how smooth things go, the entire Tianyuan world is weak and the spiritual energy is thin. Even if he casts a small spell, it will take him a month or two to recover. It can't be more painful. He dreams of returning to the upper world, but he has no hope and can only rely on the luck of this world. In the vast world, there are children of luck in every world. Those are people who are favored by heaven. How can a person who is favored by God have a bad life? It's simply a matter of luck. A few months ago, he observed the sky at night and realized that the son of destiny had been born. He also sent people to check, but in the end no suitable candidate was found. Tonight, he once again observed the sky at night, only to find that the son of luck had vaguely established a connection with Prince Chen's palace. King Chen is also a man of great luck, but unfortunately he has a calamity in his life, and it is a life and death calamity. The chance of being able to survive it is very small, so small that it can be ignored. What if such a person is blessed with great luck? The future will eventually fall. So he did not deliberately make friends with him. But things are different now. The son of luck actually has a connection with Prince Chen's mansion. It's uncertain whether Prince Chen will really be able to cross the catastrophe of life and death in the future. So he is here, hoping that it is not too late to make friends with King Chen now, and it is best to use King Chen to catch up with the son of luck. Then maybe he will be able to escape from this ghost place in the future. Gu Swiding walked up to the top and sat down. I wonder what the Imperial Master is here for. The Imperial Master smoothed the long silver-white silky beard on his chin, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. I want to meet the distinguished guest in the house. I wonder if the prince can be accommodating. Gu Swiding looked unmoved. The Imperial Master was joking. There are no distinguished guests in the house. There was a cold glint in his eyes, wondering where the news had been leaked. Chu Yunggong knew that Gu Swiding had rejected him, so he stopped pestering him and took out a small box from his sleeve and handed it over. This is a small gadget I got by chance. Can the prince help me pass it on to that person, distinguished guest? Gu Swiding didn't move or pay attention to him. Chu Yunggong, however, did not feel embarrassed at all. He simply put the small box on the desk and left with an air of immortality. Gu Swiding stared at the small box for a long time, then waved his hand to summon the shadow guard. Go and find out who leaked the news. He didn't want Zizi to come into those people's sights yet, so he strictly ordered the people in the house not to leak any information about her. Who would have thought that the Imperial Preceptor would actually come looking for him? Finally, he took the box back to the dormitory and handed it to Shen Yizi. The Imperial Preceptor asked you to give this to me? I don't know. The Imperial Preceptor. Shen Yizi was very surprised and took the box and looked at it. The small and exquisite one is carved from ivory and inlaid with tortoise shell and precious stones. She opened it and found a spherical object inside, which looked like stone but not stone, like wood but not wood, and had the texture of gold, iron, and jade. The ball is no more than the size of a marble, dark purple, with irregular white spots scattered on its surface. What's this? Gu Swiding had seen it before, but didn't see what it was. He only confirmed that it was harmless before giving it to her. Shen Yizi released Yi Chang. Here, help me see what this is. Yu Chang took a look, and his snake eyes shrank, becoming the size of a pinhead. This was a sign of extreme surprise. The seeds of the Tianji fruit. He really had to admire her luck. Didn't the string of heavenly materials and earthly treasures that she mentioned not long ago include the Tianji fruit? Soon someone came to the door automatically. Shen Yizi told Gu Swiding what Yi Chang said, and once again he had questions. Why did the Imperial Master give this to me? Tell me about this Imperial Master. Gu Swiding told her all the information about the national division that he had collected in the past. After hearing this, Shen Yizi gained some understanding of the Imperial Master. State Master Chu Yongkang, served by the royal family, his age is a mystery, he rarely appears in front of others, he is good at alchemy and divination. Divination, could it be that the imperial preceptor knew that he was in Prince Chen's mansion and that he needed the heavenly secret fruit through divination? Then he is too powerful. Yi Chang refuted her, the former is still possible, the latter, don't say that the national master cannot be so powerful. Even if he is so powerful, he has to pay a big price to get to this point. He will vomit blood and become depressed. It's a minor thing, but if it's serious, it might shorten your life. How could I still come here to give you something? Then tell me, why did he give me the seeds of the Tianji fruit? Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 238. Why do you think so much? Since he is willing to give it away, then you can just keep it. Tianji fruit can be related to the word Tianji, which shows how extraordinary this fruit is. No one has ever been able to give this thing to you. It's a bit of a job, but if you have the space, you can give it a try. Shen Yizi collected the Tianji fruit into the space and asked Xiao Si to plant it. Xia Si is the fourth puppet she recently purchased to take care of all the chores in the space. The space is getting bigger and bigger now. If she relied on herself alone, she wouldn't need to practice every day. With Xia Si, it's different. Now the whole space looks just organized. He can also help her take care of the children. It's a very good deal. Shen Yizi was planning to go to sleep after working so late. Seeing that Gu Swiding had no intention of leaving, she suddenly realized that this was his house, and it was her choice to leave. Where shall I stay tonight? As he spoke, he walked out. It was an accident last night. She fainted, so she had no autonomy. But now that she is awake, she naturally wants to avoid suspicion. Unexpectedly, he was pulled back by Gu Swiding before he took 2 steps. Where do you want to go? She glanced at him as if he was talking nonsense. He sighed softly, you go to sleep, I will go to practice outside. If you need anything, call me. Good night. He placed a kiss on her forehead. I learned the word good night from her. Of course, Shen Yizi wanted to reciprocate the courtesy, so he also leaned on his feet and kissed him on the corner of his lips. Speaking of which, she was already quite tall among women, standing at 1.68 meters, but in front of him, she only reached his shoulders. Because of this height difference, she always felt extra petite when she was held in his arms. Shen Yizi lay down on the bed and pulled up the quilt, which was filled with the refreshing breath of Gu Swiding. She couldn't help but take a sip, and couldn't help but cover her face when she was done. She looked so crazy like this, it was really bad. It makes no sense not to people, but instead his quilt here. It's really useless. The conscious body sank into the space, and Shen Yizi turned around before finding 2 little guys in the pool. Wow, Yu Chang actually told me that you are very good, but you are still up so late, playing in the water and catching fish. Does your feel itchy again, huh? Qingbao originally caught a big fat carp, but when he heard his mother's voice, he was so frightened that he let go of his hand and the fish ran away. Nian Nian was very steady, still holding a big lobster in her little hand. The lobster's pincers alone were as big as her hand, so she couldn't hold it in her hand. Mom, Nian Nian, and I want to cook something. Cooking? Didn't Xia Si cook for you? Probably not. Xia Si is a puppet, and she should carry out the orders of her master very well. Yi Chang hee, how could it not be done? These two eat more than me. It's just that they want to play house. Actually, only Qingbao wants to play, and Nian Nian mainly wants to eat. Shen Yizi understood after hearing this. Children are probably very interested in imitating the actions of adults and want to live like adults. But after all the fun, don't delay your sleep time. So Shen Yizi asked Yi Chang to drive the two little ones into the house with a cold face. She couldn't help but keep a cold face. She was sure that if she showed any signs of being accommodating, they would definitely climb up the pole. It would be difficult to contain them. Shen Yizi has some experience now. Taking care of children is like fighting a war. He is very energetic, then weak, and finally exhausted. To overwhelm them with momentum from the beginning. Otherwise, just wait for a headache. Sure enough, seeing her cold face, King Bao and Nian Nian felt frightened and did not dare to make any more noise. Like two little chickens, they obediently entered the room, washed their hands and face consciously, and then climbed into bed. Seeing that the two babies were really asleep, Shen Yizi withdrew. Have a good night's sleep. The next day, Shen Yizi was having breakfast with Gu Switting. Lin Chen walked in with joy and said, "Prince, Miss Shen, we all have made great breakthroughs after taking the elixir you gave us, so we want to learn from each other. I wonder if you and the prince are interested in taking a look." Shen Yizi was of course interested. "Okay, when?" "Half an hour later, the martial arts arena will begin." "Okay, I will definitely go then." Lin Chen went to tell everyone the news. When they learned that Shen Yizi was coming, everyone was even more excited, and they were all gearing up to fight and show off their strength. The martial arts performance field is located in the northeast of the palace, with an area no less than a football field. It can fully accommodate several times more people, let alone the hundreds of people in the palace. In the middle is a competition platform, about 4 meters high and about the same size as a basketball court. When Shen Yizi and Gu Switting arrived, there was already a fight on the stage. There were several circles of people around, and the atmosphere was very lively. "I don't know who called out first, Prince and Miss Shen are here." Everyone looked over and saluted the two men with a loud voice that shook the sky. Shen Yizi was also a little infected, and his blood boiled inexplicably. Everyone made a way, and Gu Switting led Shen Yizi to the front. The two met on the stage, and the fight became increasingly indistinguishable. However, they were both good brothers who worked together. No matter how fierce the fight, they always paid attention to their proportions. There is a monk named Sun Sanwu who likes betting most in his life. Isn't this an opportunity right now? He wandered to the side of Shen Yizi and said with a smile, "Miss Shen, who do you think the two people on the stage will win in the end?" "There are two people on the stage, one tall and one short. The tall one seems to be stronger, and he has hit the shorter one with several punches in a row." Shen Yizi pointed to the shorter one. "I think he will win." "Oh? How about we make a bet? I think the winner will be Xiao Su." Shen Yizi thought it was quite interesting. There has to be a jackpot in a bet, right? Sun Sanwu Shiren took out a Pisces jade pendant. "This is a fragrant jade I got in my early years. It naturally emits a fragrance, and the fragrance will change with the changes in the environment. If this fragrance, brush it on your clothes and it will last for years." Shen Yizi sniffed and smelled a somewhat fiery warm fragrance, which reminded people of the afternoon sunshine. "Then I'll take this as my focus." She took out a concentration pill. After taking it, people can get rid of distracting thoughts, concentrate and meditate, and enter the state of cultivation faster. Sun Sanwu's eyes lit up, and he knew that Miss Shen had a lot of good things in her hands, and this move was a concentration pill. Others were a little jealous when they saw it and joined in one after another. What turned out to be a good martial arts competition turned into a grand gambling battle. Some contestants even came to place bets themselves. At first, everyone was a little worried about Gu Switting. worried that he would stop him, but they didn't. On the contrary, when they looked at Miss Shen, who was happily gambling with everyone, his eyes were not to mention indulgent. So everyone felt relieved. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 239. With the excitement of the bet, everyone was as excited as a chicken, not to mention playing with more vigor. Finally, at the end of the competition, Shen Yizi won a bunch of bets from everyone. There were all kinds of things, including exquisite small objects like fragrant jade, antiques that were said to be family heirlooms, and rare medicinal materials such as monkey dates. Hungzao is a kind of thing similar to dog treasure and bezoar. It grows on the cheeks of monkeys. It is said that it can be brewed into wine and is very effective in treating asthma. This is an earthwork that Shen Yizi knew in her previous life, but unfortunately she has never seen a real monkey date. Now I actually got it through a bet. I'll have to try it when I get back. Shen Yizi felt a little guilty after winning so many things from everyone, so he asked Gu Swiding to discuss. Everyone has improved in strength, should we celebrate? Gu Swiding took her into his arms, pinched her nose, and said amusedly, have you not had enough? Shen Yizi was not happy to hear this and punched him in the chest. I'm not doing it for fun. As a master, your subordinates have made breakthroughs in strength. Shouldn't you encourage everyone and let everyone relax? In fact, before Shen Yizi arrived, the atmosphere in the entire palace was serious, orderly, and meticulous from top to bottom. Where could it be as lively and joyful as it is now? But because of her, Gu Swiding is happy to see the success. The princess has her life, how dare I disobey her? He brought her little fist to his mouth and kissed it. The kiss was very light, but the heat seemed to spread from the hands to the heart. Shen Yizi felt that his whole hand was numb. Gu Swiding had someone call Lin Chen over and explain the matter of holding the banquet. Lin Chen was startled and glanced at Shen Yizi subconsciously. He knew without even thinking that it was her who suggested this. How could the prince ever think of holding a banquet and invite everyone in the house to participate? But everyone will be very happy if they know it. Lin Chen took the order and left. Shen Yizi stopped him. Manager Lin, what are you going to do with this banquet? What else can be done? Aren't the processes of banquets all the same? Lin Chen looked at her in surprise. What does Miss Shen mean? I have a few suggestions. If you think they are good, you can adopt them. In order not to disturb Gu Swiding's work, Shen Yizi and Lin Chen went to the side hall to communicate and instilled the concept of buffet into him. Lin Chen's eyes lit up when he heard this. Miss Shen, can you please explain it to me in detail? The two of them were having a lively exchange here, but Gu Swiding in the hall overturned the jealousy jar. What do you want to say that you can't say to his face? Are you going to go out of your way to avoid him? Especially when I heard laughter coming from next door from time to time, it was obvious that the two of them were having a great time talking to each other. How can Gu Swiding still read official documents? Although he knew that there could be nothing between the two of them, reason was one thing and emotion was another. After enduring it for a long time, Gu Swiding threw away the pen in his hand, walked into the side hall with his hands behind his back, sat down next to Shen Yizi, poured a cup of tea, and brought it to her mouth. After talking for so long, moisten your throat. Shen Yizi was really thirsty, so he took a few sips from his hand. Upon seeing this, Lin Chen silently averted his eyes and said very wisely, Miss Shen, I already know almost the details of the banquet, so I'll go down and prepare. Wait a minute, I happen to have a lot of ingredients here. You can take them to the kitchen. They will come in handy for this banquet. Shen Yizi handed over a storage bag. Why are ordinary ingredients worth her special storage? It must have been bred by spiritual energy again. Lin Chen was once again shocked by Shen Yizi's handwriting and did not pick it up immediately. Gu Swiding held Shen Yizi's hand and said, "Zizi, you don't have to do this." Shen Yizi approached him. "Why, are you moved? I don't mind if you pay for it with your body." Somehow, Gu Swiding instantly realized what the word compensation meant. "Go down." He threw the storage bag to Lin Chen and sent the person away. Lin Chen quickly walked out of the palace gate without any delay. Almost the moment his figure disappeared, Gu Swiding grabbed Shen Yizi and touched her lips with his fingers. The banquet was held in the evening. When everyone arrived, they saw all kinds of food, drinks displayed on the long table. They heard that they could be taken at any time, and everyone was very surprised. But they soon realized the benefits of this kind of buffet banquet. You can eat whatever you want and as much as you want. Those who want to socialize can get together, and those who want to be alone can find a place to eat. It is really comfortable. After a while, the atmosphere in the hall became heated. Lin Chen came to Hangang Hall and asked Gu Swiding and Shen Yi to come over. When he came, he saw that the door of the palace was closed. As he got closer, he heard a soft voice coming from inside. Lin Chen silently took his raised foot back. He thought that since the prince had Miss Shen as his companion, he probably had no interest in attending the banquet. "Where are the prince and Miss Shen?" Lin Chen returned to the banquet hall, and Qi Ming came over with a glass of wine and asked. Lin Chen's expression remained unchanged. "The prince and Miss Shen have something to do, so they can't come for the time being." Qi Ming didn't think much, raised his glass to him, and walked towards a table of barbecue. The barbecue has just been served, and it is still sizzling with oil. The aroma is alluring. More importantly, this barbecue contains traces of spiritual energy. Eating it will not produce turbidity in the body, but is also beneficial to the body. It's just that the skill of the person making the barbecue is not perfect, which wastes a lot of the spiritual energy in the meat. He thought regretfully while eating. Lin Chen also joined in. After all, he had organized the banquet by himself, and now it was time to accept the results. It would be great if Miss Shen was here. Maybe she could give him some guidance on the spot, so that he could do better next time. However, Miss Shen is probably having a deep love affair with the prince at the moment. As a good housekeeper who always considers his master, he should never disturb her at this time. In fact, the situation in Hangang Hall was not what he thought at all. Shen Yizi was pinned down on the desk by Gu Swiding, with her neck raised, and he was covering her, biting her neck, sucking blood. The painting style was indeed very charming and good at first, but later on Gu Swiding probably couldn't stand the stimulation and became addicted. Shen Yizi was now very experienced in dealing with Gu Swiding, who was suffering from demon poison. While comforting him, he cut his fingers and sucked them on. But this guy is very picky and insists on sucking her neck. Isn't the blood here particularly delicious? Okay, the most poisonous person is, so she will kill him. Gu Swiding sucked the blood with gusto and was very careful, but Shen Yizi was bored and simply played with his hair. She raised her hand and pulled away his hairpin. In an instant, a head of satin-like black hair fell down, covering the two of them. She touched it and found that the quality of her hair was so good that it was even longer than hers. She couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Tugged in a bad way. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 240. Gu Swiding looked up at her with misty eyes. Shen Yizi was heartbroken by his look. He touched his head and said gently, "It's okay, just keep sucking." Pressed his head back. Later, Gu Swiding had enough sucking, so he lay on her and fell asleep. Shen Yizi moved him to the big bed in the bedroom, climbed up and nestled in his arms, and closed his eyes in peace. The conscious body entered the space and said to Xiao Si, "Call me at 5 o'clock. The gates of the imperial capital open at 5 o'clock." Having been out for 2 days, Shen Yizi plans to leave early tomorrow morning. Although she is very reluctant to let go of Gu Swiding, her roots are still in Jiazhuang and she cannot stay here forever. Besides, she still has a lot to do. She is a woman who wants to earn points and do tasks, so she cannot indulge in the love between her children. When the time came, the human-shaped alarm clock Xiaoxi woke up Shen Yizi. She nuzzled into Gu Swiding's arms, came close to him and kissed him. Still not feeling enough, she kissed him several more times. It's time to go, if we keep kissing you, we'll be out of control. Shen Yizi stood up gently, put a bottle of homemade rainbow candies on the bedside table, and wrote another note, Gu Swiding, I'm leaving. Remember to take good care of Xiao Man. You miss me, just eat a piece of candy and I will miss you too, okay? Pressing the note with the candy bottle, and taking one last look at the man with the quiet and beautiful face sleeping on the bed, Shen Yizi left quietly. Gu Swiding opened his eyes on the bed. There was no trace of sleepiness in his eyes. He touched the place on his face where she had kissed him, and his heart surged. Took the bottle on the short table, poured a candy into his mouth. It has a sweet orange flavor. Shen Yizi walked all the way towards the gate of the palace. It was not yet dark and the surroundings were quiet. However, there are people on duty in the palace 24 hours a day, and she has met several groups of guards along the way. When these people saw her, they stopped uniformly and saluted her from a distance. After she passed, they started moving forward again. Turning around the corridor, Shen Yizi saw Lin Chen walking from the opposite side. She rolled her eyes and hid in the rockery nearby. After a moment, a young man with a strange face came out. The secret guard hiding in the dark. The future princess really knows how to play. Lin Chen happened to be walking over, and a figure suddenly attacked him. While he was dealing with it, he called the secret guard, there is an assassin. As a housekeeper, he is good at handling various chores and is not good at using force, so he does not feel ashamed to call out to assassins when he sees them. However, a long time passed and not a single secret guard appeared. What's the situation? Aren't those secret guards always alert? Lin Chen looked at the assassin opposite, touched the playful smile in her eyes, and suddenly understood. What kind of assassin is this? It's clearly Miss Shen pretending to be one. No wonder those secret guards were hiding and did not show up. They were probably watching the show in secret at the moment. Miss Shen's disguise skills are really superb. Lin Chen took the lead to withdraw his hand and stood still. However, Shen Yizi did not stop as he expected, but instead slapped him on the chest. Lin Chen. Could it be that he was wrong? A mouthful of old blood spurted out with a poof. The blood was still dark red, and it had obviously accumulated in his body for a long time. After spitting it out, his chest felt much smoother. Haha, Manager Lin has a good eye, Shen Yizi said in his original voice. Lin Chen was completely relieved now, so Miss Shen's slap just now was intentional, not to hurt him, but to remove congestion. Shen Yizi threw a bottle of medicine over and said, this is the Yang Yuan pill. Take one pill a day. After taking it, Mr. Lin's old illness will be cured. Lin Chen doesn't have any serious problems, but there are some deficiencies in the womb, which are not visible at ordinary times, but will hinder him at critical moments. After all, he was the housekeeper for Gu Swiding. If he failed, where would Gu Swiding find such a capable person? So Shen Yizi treated him conveniently. Lin Chen held the medicine bottle and bowed deeply to her, thank you, Miss Shen. By the way, I'll give this back to you. He handed over the storage bag with both hands. Shen Yizi took it and glanced inside inadvertently, his eyebrows raised. It was filled again, but this time it was mostly filled with various seeds and seedlings. Say thank you to everyone for me. Then he changed to a male voice, the mountains will remain green and the water will flow forever. We will see you again later. After speaking, he walked away. Lin Chen watched her leave, stroking the bottle with his thumb, silently thinking, "See you later." Coming out of the palace, Shen Yizi used a blind trick as usual, released a horse from the space, mounted it, and walked leisurely towards the city gate. In a city, the first thing to wake up is often the morning market. Not long after Shen Yizi left, all the morning market stalls came out, selling all kinds of food. There are rows of shops with different styles on both sides of the street. As the economic, political, and commercial center of the entire empire, Junction City brought together people from all over the world. There are many people from foreign countries and even overseas. They have hair and skin color that are completely different from those of Tianyuan people. The people with gray hair, slender limbs, and pale skin are the Pinsi people. It is said that there are many giant trees in the country, and the people of the country live in the trees and make the trees their home. A Pinsi man passed by her on an elephant that was 4 to 5 meters high. Shen Yizi, who was riding on the horse, was instantly compared to a dwarf. A man wrapped in a white robe and walking with a stiff and weird posture slowly walked by. That man was even taller than Shen Yizi, who was riding a horse. At this moment, a kuja suddenly flew from the sky. The man made a strange cry, and then little people only a few centimeters tall came out of the robe. The whole person became much shorter because of this, and he successfully avoided the kuja. Immediately, those little people quickly got into the robe and became part of the whole. The man in white robe continued to walk forward, but the people on the street turned a blind eye to it, as if they were not surprised. Shen Yizi. Well, she was the only one staring like a rube. Walking all the way, Shen Yizi had enough to see. Dingling bells, a pleasant sound of bells came. Shen Yizi heard someone say, "Miss Peiqi's car is here." Miss Peiqi? Who is that? A passerby could recognize her car when he heard the sound of the bell, which shows how famous this girl is in the imperial capital. A Kaibao chariot came slowly. There were 5 color sachets on all sides of the chariot. Therefore, before the chariot approached, there was a gust of fragrant wind drifting over from a distance. The chariot is carved with complex and exquisite patterns, with pearls and tortoise shells as the network, and gold threads as the tassels. It is really shining with crystals and glittering lights along the way, blinding people's eyes. Miss Peiqi is really lucky. Just a piece of gold thread on the chariot is enough for us people to live a good life for several years. Not only that, even if she was born into a first-class family like the Pei family, she is still a senior disciple of the state master and the sworn sister of King Chen.